Da da da! What's my good chair? Welcome, welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never popped into one of my lives before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And that is an opening spiel that I do in the beginning of each one of these lives in this live show. What's My Good Cheer? I have another live show here on YouTube, Chatters Live, which is a little bit, well, it's a lot more casual than what we're doing here, right? These topics are really important and they're important to me and they're important for my movement. And I wouldn't be sharing it unless I felt and I believed in the evidence and the residue that the lessons leave behind in my life, that they would benefit so many. I understand, right? I can only control my own actions, right? I can only take ownership of my own beliefs, right? In my own way of living and in movement, right? It comes down to beliefs, doesn't it? And isn't it funny that beliefs is what's stumping me? Beliefs is what's stumping me when it's really truly something that is, I don't know, dazzle and amazing and so evident in my own life that I never would have thought, right, that this is how, well, my brand would have manifested to start with. Who would have ever thought, right? I was exploring abandoned farms and abandoned houses and one room schoolhouses, and that was my consistent content. But because my brand was failing, right? I wasn't failing. My brand was failing, but it was failing because I didn't have the lessons and I delved into the lessons in the expectation and the optimistic idea that, right, that I could save my brand. We're going back a ways, you guys. It has been 5 years since I've woken up to any of these ideas, right? I have no idea how I managed to get to where I am, right? Not having an inkling, not even having an iota of, well, understanding in any way. I'm treading water. I am doing the very best, right? In service to myself, in service to my limitations, in service to those other parts of me that I always thought were parts of me, right? And I've kind of become codependent to myself, and that's my independence. That's my that's my lone movement is what that is, right? These things that we kind of grow into. We got an amazing word this week, and it was curiosity. And so, today as I'm going about my day, and I'm so proud with what I got accomplished, I feel 100 times better in the cluster of my environment. Right, I live in a very small apartment, and right, I am trying to make purchases in the anticipation that as my life improves, right, my circumstances will improve. And, in those choices that I make, I've got plans and, right? And because of the promises to myself, this idea that, I'm going to move through life through kindnesses and my own steam. But also, you know, working in this little thrift shop that puts the roof over my head, it has really taught me something that really punched me in the gut as a small child. In my elementary years, the kids found out that my mother bought clothes at a secondhand store. I ended up with the nickname secondhander, right? It wasn't fatso anymore. It was secondhander. I didn't like it. I didn't like it just as much as I didn't like calling fatso or having that attention on me because of my limitations and my handicaps that were right clearly visible in my obesity, or right in that thought, in that projections, in those ideas that I believed, right? And it was only out of fear because obesity has been running in my family for generations. I had two uncles on one side that were over 500. One was 500, one was over 600. On my father's side, my grandmother was over 500 pounds and she ended up having a heart attack, right? That almost killed her. And she got to wake up like I did in her more mature years. And she treaded water and she was able to make some movement for herself before she truly passed away. I was fairly young when she passed away, but obesity has been in my family, and I understand that my parents on both sides probably had a great fear, right? And in that guilt and shame that I consistently, constantly wore, right? I believed myself to be obese when it wasn't the case. Looking back in those days, photographs, right? Not in this digital age where everything's online, right? In those pictures of me and my sisters, I can clearly see that I wasn't an obese child. Obese teenager, for sure. An obese adult, 100%. So much so that my doctor actually suggested a gastric bypass for me. And my doctor never suggested anything to me except to go to meditate, right? Go for a walk, meditate on it, Cindy. But he knew that this was a handicap. This was something that was holding me back. He saw potential, possibly, right? Who knows what the person in front of us, what gifts they have in their recognition, but they saw something in me. They saw potential that, right, that possibly I would stick to it and I would make it work and I would give it my all, right? And it wasn't even a thought to me, but my doctor put me on a list to see a specialist, right? And once I did, oh my goodness, I chomped on to that. And in that curious mind, I looked at myself in a medical, right? Kind of looked at myself medically. Not so much as somebody who was handicapped or not worthy or, right? Obese, fat, ugly, stupid, whatever it was. I looked at myself as somebody who had medical issues, right? Didn't quite understand emotional and mental and personality issues at that time, right? Though I might have had an inkling as to the problems that I had, but I wouldn't have labeled any reasoning to them at all. But I followed my doctor's advice because I trusted him and I knew that he had a bit of an aversion to Well, he was a doctor, but writing out those prescriptions, having procedures that weren't necessary. He believed in that holistic medicine. He did, and, right? He suggested it to me constantly. But this one time, right? He asked me to trust in the experts and something else, right? And I knew it was tough for him to do that. And so my curious mind picking that up, I picked that up off of him because I knew that of him. So I was curious as to why he would think that this would be something that worked for me. And I decided to follow suit and to follow in the expert advice. And I had a stomach stapling. Changed my life. It changed my life. It impacted me positively, even though I did struggle in it because I never fixed the inside. I only fixed the outside, but I fixed the outside enough for that light to shine through, for that happiness and that joy to be visible enough that I was able, right, to capture my husband's attention and to right have a personality that people wanted to be around, right, to actually compete to be around. That caught my curiosity, and that's usually what caught my curiosity was the curiosity of it all, the strangeness, right? The offshooted comments, the rolling of the eyes, right? Girl at work, she called it reading energy. Okay, you call it what you want. I've always had it. But I kind of, in this moment, I call it just hypervigilance. We talk about sometimes we're the student and sometimes we're a spectator, right? There is a difference between a student and a spectator. You can sit through anything, but whether or not it gets through, that's another story. But they're both needed, 100%, right? You can call it what you want, but it was my hypervigilance. It was my curious as to what those looks meant, why somebody was doing something or saying something contradictory to the rules that I was living by, the values that I was living by, right? We talked about not turning the other cheek, how it was a problem for me. Right? I didn't like unkindnesses at all. And sometimes I would find myself in arguments and butting heads with others when those unkindnesses would fly at me. But they didn't even have to fly at me, they could fly at somebody that treated me terribly, and I still would not like it, right? But I learned to read the energy, right, around me, the looks, the mannerisms. But these are all traits that I picked up, right, in my childhood, all trauma based, right? But they're serving me now, right? They're serving me now. My good intuition, right? My paying attention, my hypervigilance, right? These I look at as gifts now because, right, I'm kind of out of that dangerous situation, right? Doesn't mean something terrible might not or might happen again. It might, but I'm not sitting here and I'm not waiting for it, right? I am moving in those goals, dreams, ambitions, those lessons that I'm coming across, those things that are, right, saying, follow me, Cindy, right? Or go down this route and and right, and then those little coincidences that just kind of go wing, and I go, what was that? I was just talking about that a half an hour ago. I was talking about that on my live show 2 hours ago, and he's talking about it, right? Like 3 hours ago. And she was talking about it 4 hours ago, right? And then, right? And these are what gets our curiosity going, because these are our the oddities. These are the things that are out of place. Hello, Nancy. Hello. I've been watching you and your creativity on your own channel with your trains. It's looking pretty. It's looking pretty amazing now. I wanted to say that to you in person. You are so creative, Nancy. Very artistic. Super artistic. I'm looking forward to see where this is all going to land you, right? Absolutely, absolutely amazing. We got this word curiosity this week, and I was saying, it's the oddities, it's the things that are not in place that catch our attention. They go, holy moly, what did you say? What? That's totally contradicting to what so and so told me. Oh my goodness, that's so different from the way I move, the way I believe, the way that I live, right? Is that the answer? Could it be, right? It's in those things that come across our path in our conversations, in our adventures, in our experiences, those odd things, those things that are off, those hiccups, those failures, those silly things that you should have known, but were, right, for some reason, just you were blank to it, right? Until until this moment. And isn't that curious? Why? Why in this moment? And right now, you gotta shut the video off. You gotta say goodbye to your friend on the phone, because that curiosity is, right, firing up inside. And it's saying, follow me. It's saying, what about this? It's saying, what was that? Right? It's saying, delve a little bit deeper. It's saying, can we make some movement? Can we make some movement? It's always in that moving forward, right? And that moving forward only comes with that physical, that physical action, right? We can't do it without being physical, because there are so many parts of us, right? Some of us, for myself, right? You take Mother Nature away from me, right? And that's physical. I have to be out there and physically interacting with it, physically touching it, physically seeing it, right? Physically feeling it. So that curiosity comes from those moments that possibly shouldn't have happened at that moment, if ever it's caught your attention and it's asking you to delve a little bit deeper, right? Build up those intuition, right? Build up a little bit of reading the energy around you. You probably do it quite naturally and probably very, very well, right? You get into nothing but trouble with your curiosity, right? And I remembered that saying yesterday. It was curiosity killed the cat, right? It was curiosity killed the cat. But the thing is, that curiosity is the charcoal, right? For the steam engine. It's right. That curiosity is gonna, right, get you to delve a little bit deeper, to feel a little bit more, to, right, to really experiment and experience, right, these things that catch our attention, right? And sometimes, if you're like me, right, these things that come across our paths, if I don't write it down, it just goes on by and I don't give it any attention at all. And what happens? Right? The next couple of days, it's going to come across my path again. And you could do that for your entire life. Right? Let's hope not. Let's hope not, because there are some amazing things that I know that if I can get them to click right in place, that it's going to make the hugest difference, not just in my life, but because I show up here live like a loaf of bread, right? Hopefully, somebody will pick up on that. And maybe Nancy won't get herself into so much trouble with that curiosity, because curiosity is a good thing, right? It's what gets our attention, right? What gets our attention is sometimes not even comfortable. Sometimes it's super scary. Sometimes it's a warning. It's still an opportunity to make some movement forward rather than, right, to get stopped in your tracks in the moment because you didn't recognize, you didn't take that warning, you didn't get the heads up in any way, you were paying attention, right? I've done it so many times, right? My sister, I keep thinking about it, right? When she does that squirrel, when she says that, and I think, oh my goodness, I bet you I do have some serious ADHD, right? Maybe, right? Because it came across my path that we should check into that and to see if it really is an issue or if it's even there, right? Hmm. And if it is there, it'll just be some more lessons for my platform. 100%. And that cougar was scary, all right, lol. That thing had huge teeth and it was hungry, and I was a mere snack for it. Oh my goodness. Nancy, curiosity. You guys, that's the end of my days off. I am back to work in that job that puts the roof over my head, right? Grateful for that job, right? It keeps me grounded in the lessons, right? And not just the lessons, it's just sometimes even in those experiences and in that light, wholesome, fun things that we do, like what Nancy's doing with their trains, right? Yeah, those mountains were pretty incredible. I'm looking forward to seeing what you're going to get done with that, Nancy. Yeah, it's going to be amazing, I'm sure. Okay, you guys, that's going to be my good share tonight. We'll be back tomorrow. I'll be back in the afternoon before I head off to work, right? We're going to finish these last 2 days. Curiosity, word number 49, I do believe. Wow, we are getting close. 5 weeks away. And this project of 54 cards, this phase is going to be done, right? Then we're going to go into the next stage. Uh, that entrepreneur stuff. Oh my goodness. Let's see. We'll deal with that when we got to deal with that. I'm not going to put it off, but I'm not pushing it to be on my table in this moment. Nancy, thank you so much for coming into my live tonight. Thank you for all the hearts and the more hearts and right and the company. Everybody, have a great night. See